Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer 1745 here, and we're going to do a ride along as just part of our episode of Railway Empire. This is the Civil War scenario we are playing of it, and so we're going to continue this, and we're going to head towards Atlanta, as you can see up there at the top. So there we go, speeding down the railway. To the other side, see the American countryside. We will be playing soon the new German DLC once we're done with this, so you might want to come and check that out. Look ahead, down at track level or near. And we can look out back along our passenger cars. Waiting for that. And off they go, and once they clear the next signal, we should go. Oh, yep, there we go. And as we can see through this crossing section here. Now, one thing they haven't done well in this game, I really like a whole lot of what they do with this game. The one thing they haven't done well is train crashes. Trains don't crash in this game. We need to have train crashes. Once in a while, the signals or something's got to get crossed, and we've got to have a good old smash up. That would be really, really cool. Don't know if any of you have watched the old Addams Family TV series. That was a favorite when I was a kid, and I really loved when he was playing with his model trains and they would run into each other and he'd blow them up on the bridge, and that was really, really cool. And I was always disappointed because my railway sets were the HO scale electric railway trains. I played with those, and you couldn't make two trains go towards each other. They would only, because they would go, you could change the direction that they would go on the tracks by flipping the switch, but all the trains on that track would all go in the same direction. So I could never do a railway smash up. This needs railway smash ups. And that would be really cool, because that would be fun to watch. And yes, the railway expert here is being silent because he's horrified at the thoughts of railway smash-ups. Up there. They were in the station, blocking our path. Another, see the black smoke in front of us. Let's see. Okay, we're coming out here. Okay, well, let's pause this. Oh, no. Chicago, Knoxville. They're waiting for that to free up. So we'll get free in a moment here, I guess. So back to the train. No, wrong train. Click on the right train. Oh, how are we doing towards getting the task? Okay, we've got 300 people, 1864. So we got 2 years. We're moving. We may need a few more trains doing this. Come on, get going. We're impatient. Because you need to have it non-stop, I can't specify this station to specify using the opposite track. And it's waiting for the previous train. Well, okay, we're going to pause this again. We're going to put another signal here just to sort of clear them out. I was hoping that they could run a little more freely. Okay, back to the train. Yeah, that gets them going. Good. Hopefully in enough time we'll speed on ahead. There we go. Part of it is just a single point there. Oh, iron mine out there. You're actually getting water, or are we waiting for the track to clear? Nope, we're just getting water. Looks like we're getting some maintenance. Either that or, yeah, I think maintenance. Oh no, we're actually unloading the train, so we're in Atlanta. I guess we are there. Okay, so we've made it to Atlanta, so that was the trip to Atlanta. And the train is being serviced. Okay. This will increase the amount of passengers, which is good. That would too, but we need to get there, so. Oh man, we've got another, so there we go. We'll increase the passenger flow to Atlanta. I think that, you know, they've done a marvelous job with this game. And inventor, yeah. So then we actually have all the way down in deep Florida. Count it. Yeah, that will help us out. what does Atlanta need? Okay. Getting enough wood. It could use corn and wheat. Let's see. Where do we have wheat down here? Okay. So let's... When we inherited the Southern Railway system, we did not inherit their pre-set up tracks. Let's make sure it's at least mostly full. And add locomotive. Let's do that. Okay, that will get them wheat and let's see, we'll run some corn to Atlanta as well. By running it mostly full, it'll use up less track and station time, so that keep the primary job of flowing troops. They can work together. Play bits. Let's see, where is that? No. We don't need that. Okay, back to here. Stoker. We'll speed that train up. Let's speed this up. Generally speaking here. Okay, so we're over a third of the way there. Very good. Oh, that could use a maintenance just in case. Ceramics. Okay. Maybe I should have got that other thing. Louisville Railroad is a darling of the stock exchange. Very good. See the troop camps there. Yeah, we'll take railroad police. Don't know if there's still any Confederate raiders or not, but could help. Now, little Civil War history here, not so much related to the railroad. The main sort of front is off the map over here, and that is the front that is between Washington, D.C. and Richmond, Virginia. The Northern Virginia front, well, the Army of Northern Virginia that Lee commands. Some of it is sort of fought, well, a little more east from here in a little bit off in the sort of the Valley Campaign. That's the main front. And if you go back to Sun Tzu, most armies, most generals, I should say, want to take the direct approach. You know, we're here, the enemy's there in front of us, we're going to march on the enemy. Well, the Union tries that as early as the First Battle of Bull Run, or as I think of it as Manassas, which is fought at Manassas Railway Junction. Again, much of the Civil War is fought along either railways and or riverways as need for that. But the Confederacy, even with all of the industrial might of the North, and the industrial might continues to ramp up for producing of things like arms, is unable to defeat even before Lee is there, because I think mainly Early is running the war. Jubal Early, or no, Beauregard. No, probably a bit more Beauregard is running the Army of Northern Virginia as it's formed before P.T. Beauregard, before Lee takes command. For about the first 6 months to the year of the Civil War, Lee is sort of organizing up the Confederate military, not commanding in the field. So you got this, and the Union just can't defeat the Confederacy with all of its industrial might. So this becomes very apparent. The Army of Northern Virginia, which has troops from Texas, as far west as Texas and everything. Florida at this time is up. This is Florida here, just along here. No one lives down here. It is just god-awful swamp. I mean, there's a few little cities that are minor, but no railway connections down into there. This is what is sort of Florida. There is sort of one that does come down to some sort of city, but Florida, the state, is the northern part. And so all of that's funneled in. They can't. So the Union figures out that they need to take the indirect approach. And this is sort of more or less, and I'm giving this sort of crude, and I haven't really looked at this, two-front history. One is to cut the South in half by taking the Mississippi, both from a naval landing down here in the New Orleans area, to take that, and pushing down the Mississippi to cut off a lot of supplies coming in from the American West, including beef and other things that are keeping the Confederacy fed. Because you got to remember, the Confederacy can more or less feed itself locally, and can easily swap crops, but the Confederacy is based upon cash crops. Cotton and tobacco are the biggest, but sugar and other things as well that sell out to the world. And so a lot of the people there are growing these cash crops, not, and yes, slaves in many cases. But if you think the South is only huge plantations with large numbers of slaves, you're going to misunderstand the South. There are lots of family farms. They might have a few slaves working on them, but in many cases they're just white people having a farm, and they grow a cash crop. That's a lot of that, especially if you get into Appalachia, which is part of the South. It is Appalachia. There is probably almost zero slave owning, even in the slave owning states. So it isn't just these big slaves that are big plantations with slaves on them. I mean, that is part of it, but that isn't the extent of what the South is. So to understand what's going on. So yes, they can switch over and feed themselves, but doing that doesn't mean that they can feed large concentrations of troops and their supporting elements. So they need to bring in food and from other parts to support that. So they cut off the South there, and then they start, which this is game in its sort of railway sense is very much looks at, is pushing in this way, and then they eventually do push. Sherman pushes from, it gets Atlanta and then moves to the sea and cuts the Confederacy again. And in doing that, is they finally put the nail into the coffin of the Confederacy, and that they can't continue to supply Lee's armies up here well enough, and Lee has to eventually withdraws back out through not fighting over Richmond, withdraws back out. And although his army is still very willing to fight because they don't want to admit defeat, and knowing that they're still quite capable of fighting, but once the second cut comes down through the South here, Lee knows his army, though is literally starving, is quite able to fight and probably defeat in a battle Grant and his army. But because as retreating back out of Richmond, he's collecting more troops and other subsidiary fronts. But knowing that there is going to be no way that even if he defeats Grant's army, that's not going to bring about victory. It isn't going to, prolong the South in any real sense. So that's why he surrenders that. So it's the indirect approach, because get back to Sun Tzu, generals want to take that direct approach and will often hit their heads against the wall and not achieve the direct approach, to realize they've got to take the indirect approach. So to defeat Lee, you have to defeat, which to a point, it's almost an undefeatable army. Because you look at the Battle of Gettysburg, yes, the Union win it, but there are some monumentally stupid, and some of the stuff that's Lee's fault, decisions made, Pickett's charge, that cause horrendous casualties. And that army still retreats intact. It isn't like, oh, the South loses Gettysburg, and that Confederate army is just defeated rabble that's fleeing away. It's still an intact army. It's just not a Confederate victory. And that was an invasion of the North. The whole Gettysburg campaign was an invasion of the North, not a defeat defensively. It was stopping an offensive advance that happens. Faster locomotives do well. What locomotive are you running? Okay, you've got the fastest one. Okay, well, maybe just with Stoker combinations. And you can see here, let's come down here. Oh, no. You can see here how the terrain is guided by the railways, and why the advance comes down through to Atlanta, out to the sea, and not through this pass through the Appalachians, not through the main Appalachian element, because you could not supply a major army on the offensive through there. It just was going to be an impractical capability without a railway. And as we can see here, keep on topic here, without going to some sort of where are we here? We're way over here. Come over here. Without going through some sort of stupid, crazy bridging to get through. Oh, it's best shown here. Going over these mountains is just an impracticality, or some tunnel. It just isn't going to happen. So you can see how this is the channel that they have to take. Now, even when Sherman marches to the sea, he gives up his supply lines to get from Atlanta to the sea, and his army becomes an army of locusts that is just stripping the South of everything in about, if I remember correctly, something like a 30-mile corridor, and just literally every bit of food. They're just stealing it from everybody, whites, blacks, the slaves. They're just stealing food from everybody, everything. It just becomes an army of thieves, they talk about. And thievery is just rampant in his army, because once they let the troops out to forage, they just go everywhere and steal anything that they can pick up and move. And if they find something better than what they're carrying, some loot better, they throw away the old loot and get the better loot as they ransack, whether it's mansions or poor people's houses. They just plunder across the Confederacy in a still to this day remembered as a very very bad and hurtful thing. So that the Confederacy suffers from his march, and he does that, and realizing that once he gets to the sea, he's going to have unrest in New York. He's going to have food and support supplied by the Navy, by shipping over that way, and that's the only way he's able to. Sherman is able to achieve his goal. Okay. So 1860, by the end of 1864. Okay, so yeah, I think we're gonna achieve the goal, so I don't need to just keep, but we can still. Louisville to Atlanta, I want. Louisville to Atlanta trains, no. Trains. Okay. No one's gonna bid against me, so we'll get that. Okay, no, not Knoxville. Sharing the same tracks. I'll go to Knoxville. No, we want Atlanta. Oh, it's saying it because it's going. That's right, because it is. Oh no, this isn't. Okay. But these are, because they're also. I keep getting confused because it names it to the last place. It's going to Atlanta first, then to Knoxville. Okay, and let's add a conductor. That one, and they worked out. And we might as well also add an engineer. See if that works out. Yep, they're friendly. Good. I guess this will increase passengers. That's why I wanted to do that. Thank you, Blue Belt. Oh, that'll speed that up. And a conductor, sure. Oh, they don't like each other, so that's bad. They actually dislike each other. We want to stop that. We can put him on a different train. Now let's add the conductor here. See if they like each other, or well, at least don't dislike each other. And you can sort of read the personalities and get some clue as to whether they might or might not like each other. Now, friendships that actually work out are actually even more beneficial for the crew. This is when you to understand warfare, you need to understand a lot of why things happen when. It's not just general wants to move from, you know, one location to another location. There's reasons for it. There's political reasons. There's strategic, infrastructural, supply kind of reasons. Okay, how are we doing? Okay, less than 500 to go. Yes, we're playing double speed, and I'm not worrying about setting up all the auxiliary train lines, because not that it's not good and wouldn't make us money. I'm just focusing on achieving the goals of the mission. Let's and they'll get along very well. Now, of course, you realize here that I presume that's supposed to be a woman. That obviously is a woman by her costume. Having women riding alone on railways was at the time very controversial because of sexual harassment, shall we just sort of say, potentials, and that type of thing. That was back in when railways in the 1860s, 1880s was very sort of controversial, and there would be no women working on any of this stuff. Not necessarily a very good movie, and I don't know if I've ever even fully watched it, but the Harvey Girls, that was I think more like the 1880s or something, in which it was set up, if I remember correctly, as sort of a railway support restaurants, meaning that they were going to work in restaurants set up along the railway, not work actually, on a train or anything, but that they were highly monitored, shall we say, lived in sex segregated dorms, just for women, and not to be, because they were single women, not to be able to be preyed upon by men. There were already lots of prostitution, but these were going to be good, clean girls functioning in restaurants along the railways. And I'm just sort of butchering it, but again, this is a very unhistorical aspect of this game. So just being aware of that. I don't know why they feel they need to do this, whether it's just modern political correctness, or they think that by putting that there, they're going to get more women players because somehow they'll identify with having a woman security guard somehow. I just don't get it. I think I would presume a modern female player would either like trains enough to want to play this, or it wouldn't matter, Why not both? Don't quite get why not both. Modern approach, why not both? Yeah, well, I mean, if you're really into trains, no. I'm not going to build a railway up to there, I don't think. Do you care? And to me, I don't care that there's women there. It doesn't bother me. But what bothers me is that it's unhistorical. That's what bothers me. Meaning, if we were to, if this was set in the modern era, and that there were women there, that's fine. I have no problems in the world with that. In either reality or in the game, it doesn't bother me. But people learn their history from this. Like I was just talking in the video. People learn their history. And to show things like that are so unhistorical, to me, is misguiding history. And it's just like the idea that to ignore slavery and its problems in the South and over the Civil War is a problem and is a bad thing, but also okay, Toledo, Louisville, give him a conductor. We don't need conductors on cargo trains or primary cargo trains. So that is my problem with it. Is just people will get the wrong ideas about how it was historically. No, we're not going to pay that. More passengers, good. Now, I do like the aspect here with this in that not everyone works together well. It is covering interpersonal conflicts, like that's going to happen. So if we leave that, that'll eventually make the train stop. So let's find a different location for him. Conductors, we want to go to between cities, because they're going to be the ones be handling mail, and yeah, again, those guys don't like each other, so that's fine. Let's put him on Montgomery to Alabama train. Yeah, and I'll tell you, not that I don't want to, if this, you know, we can quickly come here. This does go into the turn of the century. Now, even before World War II, you're not going to find many women working. Now, you might find them working in the train stations or other things, but there's a lot of social taboos about the traveling sales lady. And they are around sexual ideas. But, you know, I want to play this. One of the things I really like about this game is that it's historical, not that it just trains. And so it's that is what I think is what draws me to the game as well. And so it's historical railroads. It's cool railroads, and it's the older railroads that get my imagination sort of going. Sort of the 1860s and later, really, quite honestly, but okay, just a few more passengers.
You have transported the recruits from Louisville to Atlanta. The inhabitants of the city will be relieved.
Don't know that would be quite true. Okay, so now we got to get them to 60,000, so just a little bit more. Now, get them, we want to get their population up. So, we already got it, we already got massive amounts of trains coming from there. Jacksonville, okay. And taking up the northern rail line, and let's use that. And try to get passengers coming in from other places. Let's see, can we come from here? Yep. That sort of, think the yellow here means that we're on the edge of Confederate territory there. I think that's what they're meaning by it. We'll throw on a new applicant engineer, which will speed that train up. Now these, what we should also do here is give higher priority to passengers. So if they're choosing to load things next time, hopefully they will. They will load. We're going to ban meat and beer next time, and we're going to ban that, and we're going to emphasize that. Their goal is to get passengers up there. And we could do another train here, I think. Yeah, I think I already have one coming to Atlanta, but again, we are going to ban that, emphasize that. Oh, yeah. And oh, what track are we taking? Because I know we're starting to overrun some of these capacities without expanding the station, which we may do. I would disagree with they were part of the furniture. But they were women were very much look. Okay, if you look at and I definitely looked at this in the 18th century and before in, say, Scotland, which 18th century Scotland is rather primitive. I mean, people get upset when I use the term primitive talking about Africa or places like that. Oh no, they had this. But no, Scotland is still a rather primitive place if you get in the Highlands, and so I've looked at that. And you can look at places around the world if you look at this. And also like in the Middle Ages, the amount of calories it takes, human burning of calories, it takes to replace and expand those calories. So if you look at, particularly like in the Middle Ages, one of the chores that a woman is doing in her day is literally grinding the flour, grinding, the wheat into flour. And you're burning calories to make food so that they're not necessarily getting flour. Now by, the 1860s, in much of the world, European, American world, they're using, windmill, water-powered mills, and starting steam mills, I do believe, as well to grind corn. And corn, if you use it in its technical term, is just simply grain. It's not, American maize corn that sort of takes over the term, but is grinding that into flour. So women are getting it into flour. But the energy it takes to make the food, to then replace, to eat the food, is a very significant element to life at this time. I just about cook everything in a microwave, and the stuff is, I don't even consider it cooking. I'm heating it up in the microwave. I'm not, I know how to cook some stuff, and by cook I mean like make pizza dough and put it out there and then put the sauce on it and put this all that stuff on it, and then make that and then put it in the oven and heat it up. That is a process. I just conveniently go to the store and get frozen things or things that aren't frozen but can be quickly heated up, and put the hot dog into the hot dog bun. I don't really consider that making or cooking food. That's just heating up and assembling things a little bit. Food wasn't that kind of easy to do, so women had a vitally more necessary than the railway. Their job was to make sure their family had food to eat, and food wasn't generally things bought like that in the store. You may buy, bacon, which is cured pork and whatnot, because you're not necessarily on a farm that has pigs that you're ready to slaughter. Even if you have pigs that you're ready to slaughter one of them for bacon, you buy some of the big pieces and things like that, and then slice it and prepare it. And so there's a lot of preparation. And then with all of that, as part of that, you have to clean the frying pan that you fried the bacon in. You have to clean out the ashes from the wood burning stove or even the coal burning stove. You have to clean all that out. And the house, because you've now cooked the food using wood or coal burning things, you have to clean that house out because that house is filled with soot. And so it's a constant job, and it's an important job that is overlooked in this modern day of convenience. And so, the Women's History Month is right now in America, so let's promote women's history, and they'll want to promote the first woman working on a railroad, but they won't promote the more important historical contributions, which are not women in politics or women in railways, but it's women in part of society. And so I study this. I'm not a male chauvinist. Women aren't important or women shouldn't be. No, they had even more important roles in the past. And that is, set up. And I would, so yeah, you can say social, but, class levels. Well, women had still a vital role in maintaining society in the upper levels of class stuff. They weren't maybe the presidents or the prime ministers, but they helped the society function. And so it's an important thing. And when you get proper history and looked at it and understand, it becomes very apparent. Okay, we are almost there. Just a few more passenger trains and we'll get this part of the scenario done. No. Okay. And this, I do think the modern women's movement is really missing a lot of the historical importance, because they don't take this stuff into account. They only want to take male roles as being good roles into account. I'm going to have to experiment to see how the switching stations.
Atlanta is growing again, and the returnees in the city can be catered for too. A disaster has been averted, thanks to you. You did what was in your power. Your railroad helped us to hold our position and push back the Confederates. They will soon see that they can no longer win, and then the war will come to an end. Also, thanks to your help.
The Confederate States surrendered in April 1865. In the end, there were untold victims, devastation, and destruction on both sides, and a period of deep economic recession followed. For the first time, the railroad had also become a decisive factor in the war, a pawn on the map tables of the generals. Where rapturous people had once gathered to cheer on the locomotives, the railroad had become a tactical playing piece during the war, delivering soldiers and materials to the battlefields. Yet the victims and the hardships were not to be in vain. Peace brought North and South closer together than ever before.
Okay, well, we're going to end the episode here. I want to thank you all for watching. I want to thank you for liking the videos. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. And, of course, I love hearing from you, so please post questions, comments, suggestions. Next up after this series, we're going to be playing the German new DLC for Railway Empire, so hopefully you'll come back and check that out. Another reason to subscribe. Thanks so much.